All right, so yeah, as Harvey said, I am Axios, and today we're going to be talking about attachment, trauma, and dating, finding power within the predicament of being a human being. And I just want to start by asking you guys a question. I'm curious which statement of the three resonates for you the most when it comes to your dating life or when it comes to your relationship life in general right now. Which sentence is most alive? And you can either share in the chat or just like put up a number right now, just to get a sense of the room here. But number one is I feel anxious when the person I'm dating doesn't respond to my text within a few hours, or dating people who are needy is a definite turnoff for me, or I crave connection, however, intimacy is often really scary for me. So I see a bunch of twos. Neediness is a turnoff. A couple threes, 1 and 3. Okay, awesome. Cool. So this is kind of gonna feed into the talk or the topic today, which is attachment styles, as I said. But I want to start with just a personal story of what inspired this talk to begin with. So I'm going to share a little story about my journey to Pleasure Town, or my attempt to go to Pleasure Town. And it begins on a dating app. I'm not the type that I don't like dating apps. I tend to prefer to stay away from them. But after the shit show that 2020 was, and kind of still is, and just like my experience in relationships during that time, just being such really not a fun experience for me, I decided, I was like, you know what? I have some needs that I want to get met. Like I want physical touch. I want some emotional needs to get met. And so I'm going to give it an attempt just to see what can happen. So I got on Hinge and I ended up matching with someone, which is cool. And we started texting and, like, it was going well. Like we had similar interests, like kind of similar paths. So I was kind of like seeing the potential there, and just like, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe this will be like maybe this will be like an easy experience. Maybe I don't actually have to put much effort in to like make this work. Awesome. So she lived about 90 minutes away, and so we just decided to have a few video calls just to connect and get to know each other before we met up in person. And so our first video call was like super cool. Felt really connected. I was like, man, this is a really great match. Like we seemed like a really great fit. And then about a week later, we had another video call, and I was like, okay, that was just like kind of like the glue. It's like, okay, there's definitely a connection here. And I remember after that call, she was like, yeah, I feel really safe with you, and that's, for me, that's always a really nice thing to hear. And I felt the same. So we kind of basically exchanged addresses, and we're like, okay, we're gonna plan to meet up in the next few days. So I was really excited. Like I'm on the verge of Pleasure Town. I'm gonna get my needs met in different ways. I was really excited. Like, oh, finally there's someone in my life that I can connect with on this level. And like, oh, what a relief. And then something weird happened. We had a conflict. We were texting, had a weird conflict, and it seems kind of like minor because we seem to have resolved it by the end of the day, but I noticed that over the next 2 to 3 days, she wasn't really messaging me at all, and she was kind of being distant. And so when I noticed that, I was kind of getting a bit anxious, and like I'm like, what's going on here? So I kind of reached out and said, hey, what's going on? And she ended up revealing that she had some dissonance about our earlier conflict. And so I was like, naturally, I was like, okay, so you want to get on a call and like talk about it and see what's going on? And her response was, no, I don't want to get on a call, and actually I want more space. And so hearing that, I was like, okay, I definitely understand the spaciness, but there was also this part of me that was like, oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, and judging myself, blaming myself, what's going on? I feel sort of like insecure now. I'm not sure what's happening, what's going on. So I gave her space, and I noticed that over, the next few days, over the week, is almost as if, whenever I kind of moved a little bit closer to her, she would move a little bit farther back. And that ended up being the theme for the rest of our connection, where like I would move a little bit forward and she would move back. And every time she moved back, I noticed that I would feel super uncomfortable, totally anxious, and in pain, because I'm like, what is going on? What's my deal? And she would share like, these are all the things that are wrong with you. And I would be like, okay, well, how do I change? And the relationship goes to shit. And so basically I'm at this point, like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what just happened? what is going on? I feel totally lost, confused, and I feel embarrassed because I'm feeling a lot of pain right now, and I didn't even meet this person in real life, and I'm feeling this much about it. And I was like feeling, judgy of myself for it. So a few weeks go by, and like I was still struggling with what just happened in this connection. And one day I come upon this attachment theory article, and I'm reading this article, and it's talking about anxious attachment style. And when I read that, I'm like, holy shit, like this is totally me. This is how I showed up when this conflict happened. And then I read the avoidant attachment style, and I was like, oh my God, this girl totally, like to a T, did all the things. And so I had this moment where I was like, oh my God, wait a second. This is trauma. I just had, this was a trauma response, and we just played out the dynamic of this trauma response. So today I want to share with you guys a bit more about this human predicament, which is this attachment experience and what happens and the trauma that ensues and how to be with it, but first how to understand it. So we'll start off with the human predicament. We're like, we're babies born into this earth. We're like little alien babies. We're trying to survive, right? We're like our prime directive to survive, and we have these strategies to survive. So like one of those strategies is to cry, to make eye contact, to move our legs. So we're doing this to get our needs met so that we survive. And I think the weird thing about this human predicament is that, and Shaden kind of spoke to this too, that like we start off as babies, and then a lot of things change, like our bodies change, and like we have developed conscious minds, and like we're having sex and things. But the thing is like, okay, now I'm 32, and on a subconscious level, there's actually not much that really changed. The prime directive is still to survive, and I still have strategies to meet survival needs. They just kind of look different. So now my strategies are, might be over communication, or rugged individualism, like being super independent, or emotional outbursts. It looks different, but there's something the same that's going on. And so that's kind of speaking to this theory. So attachment theory, in a nutshell, speaks to this theory that how your parents were with you when you were a child or when you were a baby, whether they met your needs or didn't meet your needs, has an impact on your belief about whether your partner will meet your needs or will not meet your needs as an adult. It's super interesting to note that the word parent, if you just switch around the letter E and the letter T and then add an R, you get the word partner. So we're really not much is changing we're going from a parent going to the partner. And the only thing that's really changing in that is our core belief about, do I believe that my needs are going to be met with my partner based off of the history of were my needs met with my parent? So this is the theory. So just to explain a little bit more about this theory, so let's say you're a little baby and you got all your needs met from your parents. The theory states that you may show up with a belief that says, my needs will be met in relationship. Thus, this is called the secure attachment style. Now, you might be, another instance is you're a baby and only about half of your needs are met. In this case, you might show up with a belief that says, my needs might be met sometimes. And in this case, what shows up is an anxious or a fearful attachment style. So there's like a party that's like anxious. And my needs are going to be met? Or fearful, I don't know if my needs are going to be met. I'm not totally sure. It's not 100%. And then in a more, a different case, your parents really, in some way, or there might be an experience that you had when you were younger where you really didn't get your needs met in the way that you needed to get them met. And so in this case, growing up as an adult, you may hold a belief that says, my needs won't be met. So this is more of the avoidant attachment style or fearful attachment style. So we'll go more into these attachment styles in just a bit, but here are kind of like the main emotions with the lay of the land. So we've got anxiety on one side, apathy on the other side. So anxiety, we're feeling a lot. Apathy, we're not feeling anything at all. Fear is in the middle. So anxious, preoccupied, avoidant, dismissive, and then fearful, avoidant in the middle. The fearful, avoidant kind of encompasses both sides. They tend to be anxious and apathetic. So they feel and they want to distance themselves at the same time. So that's just like a general overview so you guys have a sense. So I want to now ask you guys, like, What do you guys, so this just like a silly meme here. I'm curious if you guys can guess which attachment style this likely is. So she says, I'm just going to keep calling and texting you until you understand how normal I am. What type do you guys think this would be? Would it be anxiety, fear, or apathy? Any guesses? Anxiety. Yep, you got it. That's exactly right. So anxious types. Core emotion, anxiety. Tagline, I will cling to you. So basically these types, like I said, are not sure if they're, with their parents, weren't sure if they were going to get their needs met. So when they're with their partner, they're like, am I going to get my needs met? Are you going to be there for me? Are you there? And so the survival strategy in that is over communicating. Like you see these types over texting, like sending a bunch of messages. Are you there? Are you gonna respond to me? These types tend to strive to fix the relationship. I am this type, so in my story, I was striving to fix it. I'm the problem. What's wrong? What did I do wrong? How can I correct this? Blah, 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 blah. And so taking full responsibility for every part of the relationship rather than only the parts that I should take responsibility for. So that's the anxious types. All right, here's another meme. I work well with others when they leave me the fuck alone. What type is this? Any guesses? Apathy, you got it. Nice. Perfect. So apathy, these are the avoidant types. Main emotion, apathy. Tagline, I will ghost you. So these types, because they didn't get their needs met in some way, they don't expect to get their needs met from a partner. So when shit goes down, when there's conflict, the survival strategy is to withdraw. It's like, I don't need to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with this. I'm just going to withdraw. That's what works for me. With a dismissive type, if you are sharing a lot of emotion with them, they will likely dismiss your feelings because they don't want to acknowledge their own feelings because it's weird for them to feel their own feelings. It's strange for them. So I'm going to dismiss yours so I don't have to acknowledge mine. And then the last thing is like, you're the problem, I'm not, but you're the problem, I'm not the problem, you're the problem. So there's kind of like a negative other model and a positive self model in that. So that's the avoidant type. And here's the last one. If you can't handle me at my panic attack, you don't deserve me at my medicated. Who might this be?
Typical New Yorker, fear.
Yeah, this is the fear, exactly. So fear types kind of have the worst of both worlds in a way. Like I said, they're anxious and avoidant, and this is because at some point when in childhood they were very afraid to the point they're afraid for their survival. So that translates to when I'm an adult and I'm in an intimate setting, I'm terrified. I'm afraid. I don't know what to do right now. So I need a lot of reassurance. So the survival strategies are typically you'll see like emotional outbursts. You'll see them either over communicating or withdrawing. I know that some friends say, I'll come in close to you, and if you back up, then I'm gonna back up, and that's it. I can't do that, So they do not like mixed signals because they're getting a lot of mixed signals. So that's the fearful types. So I just shared a bunch of these, different predicaments. So the question that I've been asking myself is like, how do I find my power in all this? How do we find our power in these trauma responses that are happening more often than maybe we like or would like to admit? So I'm going to share some things that have worked for me that really helped me as I was going through this, because it can be, when it's activated, it's like I'm totally out of control and I have no idea what to do. So what's the first step here? For me, it's accept your emotions. Accept your emotions. What does that mean? How are you feeling? In being with this other person right now, this person that's perhaps triggering or activating you right now, what is it like to be with them right now? What is the constant theme? Is there a pattern of emotions that you typically see showing up? For me, it was anxiety. I feel anxious and concerned a lot. You might feel afraid. You might feel annoyed. You might feel confused. By becoming aware of our feelings, not only are we grounding into our body, into our experience, but we can also start to get a little bit more context of, what might that be saying about my attachment style, and what specific attachment style is showing up with me in relationship to this other person. So feelings are important. Second thing, once you acknowledge your feelings, acknowledge your needs, because with every feeling, there's also a need. So contexting your needs are really important. So if for me, if I'm feeling anxiety, it's like usually because I'm needing some sort of feedback or clarity. That's like, I need to know where we're at. Like, you're distancing yourself. I don't understand why that is. I'm feeling anxiety. I need clarity. That's what I'm needing. For someone who's, fearful, avoidant, they might feel afraid and they're needing to feel safe. For someone who is avoidant, dismissive, they might be feeling annoyed, and so they might be needing space. So getting clear on what you're needing is a really important part, because it kind of like, it will connect the dots within your conscious and subconscious mind and give you a better context of what's happening and where do you need to go next. So once you find the feeling, you get the need, you go to the request. This is the specific container. This is now we're inviting in the other person into a specific dialogue or a specific experience that can be in some way, intentional and safe, hopefully safe. So here's some different requests that I've created for the different types. For instance, anxious attached. If you're an anxious attached person, this is a really great one, because these types typically need to be heard and understood. So I might ask my partner or person I'm dating, would you listen to me for 10 minutes and then reflect back the feelings and needs you heard me share? And as you can hear in that sentence, I was very specific. 10 minutes, reflect back the feelings and needs. I told them what to do essentially and how long we would do it. And I'm not telling them, I'm not demanding this, I'm asking it. So I'm asking consent to have this experience with them. So it's very specific, and I'm asking consent for that to happen. For a fearful avoidant type, you might ask, so because these types, it's super vulnerable to be intimate, and that first time having sex with someone that you've never had sex before might be super intense, you can say something like this, like, would you check in with me from time to time when we're having sex by asking, does this feel good? Or like, do you like that? Those things can be really helpful and reassuring for someone who really needs to feel safe and know that this person's there with them and cares about them. And then the last one is the avoidant dismissive types. These types tend to have a little bit more difficulty feeling into their feelings, their emotions. So would you be patient with me when I'm trying to express my emotions by curious guesses? And this curious guesses are just a great way for someone who's like, yeah, I don't really know what I'm feeling. I can be like, are you feeling afraid? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling confused? And that's just a great way to help someone like connect to their feeling state. So there's many different requests you can have. These are just a few for you guys. And the thing that I want to wrap up this talk on is something that's been extremely vital for my own, like, I guess we would say peacefulness, inner peace, and kind of the thing that got me through a lot of the pain and struggle of being with this trauma. And that is to set a radical intention for yourself and in being with others. And that intention is called radical patience. So what I mean by that is I can be radically patient with myself. I can be radically patient when I'm feeling anxious. I can be radically patient with my hurt. I can be radically patient when I'm feeling embarrassed or shame or whatever it is. All these emotions that are coming up, these normal emotions, these things that happen to everyone, I can be patient with my process, and it is okay. On the other note, I can be radically patient with you. So when you're not sharing your feelings, or you're needing to take it slow, or you're building trust with me, I can be patient with you in that process. And hopefully by learning more about these attachment styles and having more context of how this might be impacting you, how this might be impacting your partner or the person you're dating, that you can show up a bit more radically patient and knowing that, hey, maybe this person just needs a little bit of space, or maybe this person just needs to be heard, or maybe this person just needs to know that they're safe with me. So that's my talk, and I would love to hear any